What's going on, everybody? Happy Thirsty Thursday. Welcome to another edition of Mean Streets here on Game Plus Network, live on our FTN Network YouTube page. Chris Meaney hanging out with you. Always appreciate the time here, everybody. Jam-packed show here today. Riding solo. Bear with me. Hopefully I have a good one lined up for you, but we'll let you be the judge. Of course, the show also available on iTunes and Spotify. If you're hanging out live on our FTN Network YouTube page, smash the like button. You have any comments, any questions, leave them there. I will always address them on this show. And if I get them a little bit later on, I will always circle back and address them in the comment section. If you're watching post show, you can leave the comments there in the YouTube section. If you're watching on Game Plus Network, listen on iTunes, same sort of deal. You can pop on over to our FTN Network YouTube page, leave a comment in the comment section. You can tag me at Chris Meaney, slide in the DMs. They are open. Mean Streets FTN at gmail.com. Something I did today, this morning, I'm just asking people on Twitter who is a player that they are looking to draft, somebody that they want to draft. Now, I don't think you should go into your draft saying, I got to get this guy, and that's it. My mind is set. I'm going to get this player, and there's no ands, ifs, buts about it. I'm getting them. That's it. Don't clip that one. So we'll go over some of those names, some intriguing names out there. I just like to hear people's thoughts, see some players out there maybe they like more than other people, and I'll share a couple that I like as well. Today, we will look at round 2 and 3 of NFFC high-stakes leagues. We did round 2 a little bit yesterday. If in case you missed it, we'll just take a quick peek at it, but we'll dive into round 3, and as we get deeper and deeper in, we'll get into like rounds 20, 21. High-stakes leagues, NFFC, money is on the line. We got a good sample of drafts. The last 2 weeks, there's over 25 drafts that have taken place. So we can go over the scoring settings. Yesterday, when we talked about round 1, I think it was yesterday, Patrick Mahomes is on the board, and it is a 6-point passing, 6 points for a passing touchdown. So that's why you see those quarterbacks go slightly early over at underdog. Those three in the first tier, Mahomes, Jalen Hurts, and Josh Allen, going roughly ADP 18, average draft position 18, but they're all in the same tier for me personally, and I do believe for a lot of people. And you could see when you follow the ADP of some of these sites and where these guys are falling, that second tier there with Lamar Jackson, Justin Fields, and Joe Burrow in around between 40 and mid to late 50s. Today is the NBA draft happening tonight. We went over it yesterday with Mike Randall. We talked about, my mock draft. We talked some NBA draft props, what to expect from Wemby. We kind of took some shots at his first pitch, in a baseball game, but this guy's going to be a stud. He's going to be a superstar in the association. But before we got on and we went live, there was a tweet here from Shams of The Athletic. Of course, everybody knows Shams, NBA insider, says sources, Scoot Henderson is gaining serious momentum at number 2 with the Charlotte Hornets in tonight's NBA draft. Hornets have been torn over the last week or so between Henderson and Brandon Miller. Team has a final meeting today to settle on the decision. You heard Randall yesterday. He's Team Scoot. I've been Team Scoot now since, since the lottery, and found out who's going to be number 2. I've just been Team Scoot anyways. As you see here, I've had him going second overall. I'll find some live draft odds from DraftKings to see if there's any movement. Quan just showed us the favorite there to be pick number 2, to be pick number 3. So I'll go over some of this in the next block, actually in a couple blocks, because we're going to do the Hockey Hall of Fame quickly in the next block. The nominees were announced yesterday, goalie heavy, 3 goalies. So I want to go over that with you guys as well. There's also a big trade in the association last night. It was looking like Kristaps Porzingis was going to Boston, then it was axed, and then now he's going to Boston again. So we'll talk about Kristaps. There you go, right there. So we'll dive into that in just a little bit as well. A lot to get to. And then something that we mentioned yesterday that I'm super proud of for the FTN family to be part of the FTN family is that you can look for us on Sirius XM Radio. We debut on July 8th at 9 a.m. Eastern. You can catch us every Saturday morning from 9 to 11 Eastern, the FTN Fantasy Show with myself, Jake Seeley, and Lauren Carpenter. All in Football will still be a show that you can catch on Game Plus Network and FTN Network. In season, it'll probably be a Monday, Wednesday show. We're thinking about Monday hitting the waiver wire, a little bit of recap of what we just saw from the NFL. And then Wednesday, Jake releases his rankings. I release mine. I pick his rankings apart. He laughs at me and says I'm silly. And, we just go through some of the players we like a little bit more than the consensus, and some players we don't like as much as other people around the industry. But the FTN Fantasy Show, debuting on Sirius XM Fantasy Sports Radio, channel 87, July 8th. Catch us every Saturday from 9 to 11 a.m. Eastern. We're going to take a quick break on the show. There's only a handful of games around the diamond. I do feel like I need a bounce back performance, even though the one pick we gave yesterday was correctly, what was it? Cutter over 5.5. There's Whitlock over Garrett Whitlock over 5.5 strikeouts. We did just get that. But overall, it wasn't a great day for me over at FTNBets.com. We're still hovering around 15 units. MLB Dream is cooking. Gross is cooking. Of course, the FTN betting package available for free to check out for a 3-day trial, FTNBets.com/free, FTNDaily.com/free. But if you are looking to the FTN family, as we inch closer to the NFL season, a few of us already have, futures up there, and it's things that we're going to discuss on this show as well. But when you have the betting package, you get all the picks from everybody across all sports over at FTN. Plus, you get projections and tools. And if you are into DFS, same sort of deal. If you have the FTN daily package, you are going to have all of the sports, the optimizer in there as well. PGA season in full swing. NFL will be here before you know it. Lots of good stuff to dive into over at FTNDaily.com as DFS season. Of course, you get the MLB optimizer as well. NASCAR optimizer over at FTNDaily.com. Thank you for that, Quan. As I mentioned, a lot to get to here in the show. We will touch on some of the fantasy football targets to avoid and to, target in the first 3 rounds of drafts. I'm going to show you my overall rankings 13 to 24 here on this show as well. Quick break. I'd love to hear from you guys. Who's that player you have to draft in fantasy football leagues, or you're looking to draft? A player that's on your radar that you want to have some shares of, somebody that you like here in fantasy football drafts. We'll talk about a few from Twitter, but I'd like to hear your guys' comments as well. Daily Handle, Jordan Allen in the house. Good afternoon, Means, and everybody. A big day in the association for you and for all the NBA fans. I know you're all over it. Good, sir. We'll be back in a couple. Hang tight.
The future of fantasy sports is here with So Rare. Build your teams just like an owner. Buy, sell, or trade officially licensed digital player cards. Build your 5-player weekly lineup, and you could win rewards like tickets, autographed jerseys, and more. The future of fantasy sports is here with So Rare, taking Dynasty to the next level. The future of fantasy sports is here with So Rare. Build your teams just like an owner. Buy, sell, or trade officially licensed digital player cards. Build your 5-player weekly lineup, and you could win rewards like tickets, autographed jerseys, and more. The future of fantasy sports is here with So Rare, taking Dynasty to the next level.
Welcome back in. Let's talk some NBA now, Quan. Let's do that again. I just saw, can we bring up the NBA draft props that we shared with Randall yesterday that you touched on in the first block? So this was yesterday. How quickly things can change. As I said, this is not a pat myself on the back. This is nothing. This is just about me liking Scoot Henderson more than Brendan Miller. That's it. That's just straight up. Saw the mock, had him second overall. Randall and Quasenberg DFS. Zach Graham, they've been talking about it on our FTN Network YouTube page for quite some time. They've done some great draft, profiles, this player versus that player. Did a great one, Miller versus Henderson. They dove into other player profiles, the Thompson twins, identical twins, by the way. That's super cool. Those guys are both going to go inside the top 10 here tonight. But now how quickly this has changed. I'm looking right now over at DraftKings, and of course, Wemby is just like the massive favorite. He's going to go first overall. There's no debate. I don't even know why people would bet on that. It's just like you're not going to win anything. Scoot Henderson, minus 425, ladies and gentlemen, to be the second overall pick here tonight in the NBA draft. We talked about yesterday how Waj was reporting the other night that it was going to be Brendan Miller. And then we also talked yesterday that he's been wrong before about this stuff, particularly last season. He was wrong about some things that he predicted. And, when these experts and these insiders, they tweet about certain players, obviously lines are going to move. And I just read Sham's tweet, which was 15 minutes ago. I know if you're watching live on our FTN Network YouTube page, 15 minutes ago is like 12:15 Eastern. You're watching on Game Plus Network. This has happened a couple hours ago, so things have changed. Maybe I don't even know what they would be now if you're watching on Game Plus Network. Maybe it's minus 800. Maybe it's swung the other way. But I've always been in just his camp, Scoot, and I agree with this. Been betting that Scoot line for a while. We love that. We love seeing this. We talked about it yesterday. What was the odds again? Can you bring it up? Was it plus 200 for him yesterday to be look at that. And then even this morning, I saw plus 225 in some spots. So now minus 425 for Scoot Henderson to be the second overall pick. We talked about yesterday. I think I'd say his weakness is probably his perimeter shooting, but this guy can do it all. He's a player that can attack the rim. He can finish at the rim. He's very, aggressive. And the G League, as I said yesterday, is just no joke. So we'll see if he is the second pick. We'll see if it is actually to the Hornets, if there's a trade in the works. I think we'll see some aggressiveness across the association. We normally do. It's not like other leagues. There's some trades in NFL in the past couple of years in the draft. We've seen some trades like Hollywood Brown, AJ Brown, things like that. But in the NBA, there's just massive trades all over the place. I am watching. This is moving all over the place on DraftKings. This is now just in the corner of my eye. I could see movement. He's now minus 380. Scoot Henderson to be the second overall pick, and Brendan Miller's at plus 230. Brendan Miller favored to be the third pick at minus 370. What else do we have on that board, Quan? See if we see some other movement, if you can bring that up one more time. Thompson's now minus 350 to be the fourth overall pick, and the fifth overall pick is Asar Thompson at minus 150. So we could see the identical twins go back to back there. Joshua Frick, man, yesterday went from plus 300 to plus 400. And then, like we said, here he is at minus 380 to be the second overall pick. We do appreciate that, Joshua. Welcome in. It's been a while since we've seen you on this show. We do appreciate the support. And thank you so much for that on Sirius XM. So we'll see how this does all unfold. Very interesting, some live movement here and there, but no point in getting involved. I would say if you wanted to do a little sprinkle, maybe go on Miller or go on Scoot Henderson to be third pick. I wouldn't be taking minus 300, minus 400. We talked about it for a couple weeks on this show as good value. If you got on that like Frick, best of luck to you. Hopefully you do get that correct. Let's talk a little bit about the trade yesterday in the association with Kristaps Porzingis. So Porzingis had a player option to re-up with Washington, and it does sound like he did, and then the trade to Boston. So this trade here was a three-way deal originally with Brogdon, and so that didn't work out. And then Memphis wanted to get involved, and they do get involved here, and they get Marcus Smart, who's former defensive player of the year. I'm pretty surprised that Boston would move Marcus Smart. I think he's just, really, he is kind of the engine in Boston. I like what he brings to the table, his hustle, his energy, leadership, of course, what he can bring to the table defensively. I think it's a really good get for Memphis, talking about Memphis and, John Moran, who's going to be suspended for the first 25 games of next season, and just Marcus Smart, what he could, bring to this team and leadership, and, maybe he can help out John Morant as well, off the court stuff. I don't want to dive into that aspect of it too much, but this is a leader. This is a guy who, won't win you a game at the end of the, the fourth quarter, but his presence on the court, he could get you a stop. I think it's a pretty good get for Memphis. And, Tyus Jones is no joke either. And all the players that the Wizards have acquired over the past little bit, like Chris Paul and Gallinari and Muscala, these guys are all on expiring contracts. Washington is rebuilding here, and they'll have what I believe is the 35th pick there in tonight's draft in the second round. And Boston gets a 2023 first and a 2024 first. For Kristaps, he's coming off his best season in the association. Reading off some of his numbers here, his points per game, I'm on a different website, 23.2. So that was a career high for him. He had 1.5 blocks, not a career high for him, but the assists right around his career average of 2.7. His rebounds, 8.4. He shot 56% from the floor, which was a career best for him. His three-point percentage was 38%, which was the best mark that he had since his early years in New York, but 2.1 threes per game, back when he was with the Mavs, when that trade happened, with Spencer Dinwiddie. So across the board, he had a really good season. And I think the plus when I watched Kristaps this year is he just looked healthy. He played 65 games. He had 32.6 minutes per game, which was the most he's had since his second season in the NBA with the Knicks. And those seasons that he had with the Knicks, especially that third one, really strong for him. So, it brings the New York and Boston, like that rivalry. That's kind of fun. But now you're looking at this Celtic squad with Kristaps and Brown and Tatum. And I think that's a pretty solid three. I really do. So Kristaps doesn't have to be leaned on to be that scorer. His minutes don't have to be, they can kind of keep him fresh. And I do believe that they're going to keep Jaylen Brown. I think that they're going to find a way to have him, the Wizards got fleeced. I mean, the Wizards have been getting fleeced now for years, right? They didn't get anything for Bradley Beal. They hardly got anything here for Kristaps, but this is a team that wants to rebuild. You would expect them to get a couple more picks and rebuild that way. But like I said, all these players that they've gotten over the past couple of days they're just all on expiring contracts. Yes, he, for sure, not wrong, has some issues staying healthy, but this was a positive season from him. Like I said, he was able to get 65 games, able to play 32 minutes a game, 23 points per game, shot well from the floor, shot well from beyond the arc, was chipping in, defensively with some steals and some blocks and some rebounds. So he's not asked, it's not like when he went to Dallas, asked to be the two, in Washington, the guy. Beal, of course, but this is a good three, and I think this is a good get for the Celtics. Like I said, I'm pretty surprised that they moved on from Marcus Smart. I think a pretty good get there from just shots fired at Porzingis here. He can't handle the big stage, not a playoff guy. I get it. I understand, the knocks on him as well. Thompson, most likely going fourth overall. Houston very high in him. And I know Daily Handle, you talked yesterday about Miller over Scoot, but it does sound like Scoot will be that second overall pick. Odds are changing on the fly. Minus 360 now for Scoot Henderson to be the second overall pick. That's the NBA talk for now. In case you missed the show, the past couple of shows. Oh yeah, Chris Middleton opted out of his, so he could still sign a contract with the Bucks, but he is going to be a free agent. These are the lists. This is the list here of the free agents: Kyrie, Fred VanVleet, Draymond Green, Grant, Lopez, Vucevic, a couple names there on the list, a couple centers there. And, these guys could still re-up with their squads, but they are unrestricted free agents. And then we had some guys that are player. We can bring this up, even though it's changed a little bit, like Middleton has opted out. Kristaps is now a Celtic. Gary Trent Jr. Opted in, and then some other guys there. We're waiting on some clarity of what they're going to do. Wow, Caesars minus 750 for Scoot to go second overall. It's all happening. I'm sure Randall's happy. I'm happy. We'll have a few sprinkles over at ftnbets.com for Henderson to be the second overall pick. That's it for the NBA talk for now, unless something else does indeed break. We do have a lot of football talk. I think maybe we get into that. I don't think anybody really cares about the Hockey Hall of Fame, but I know that a lot of people in the Game Plus Network area do care about hockey. Of course, that's where the Hockey Hall of Fame is, in the Toronto area. So we'll touch on that a little bit later on in the show. Let's switch gears a bit and talk some NFL here next on Mean Streets. You're watching here on Game Plus Network. We'll be back in a couple.
Play So Rare MLB, a free revolutionary fantasy game and marketplace that transforms fans into general managers. Build your team with ownable digital player cards. Collect, buy, sell, and trade to optimize your lineup. Compete against So Rare managers from around the world. Climb leaderboards and advance to elite competitions. Based on your player's performance on the field, win rewards like game tickets, merch, and much more. Draft your set of free cards now at sorare.com/MLB. Play So Rare MLB, a free revolutionary fantasy game and marketplace that transforms fans into general managers. Build your team with ownable digital player cards. Collect, buy, sell, and trade to optimize your lineup. Compete against So Rare managers from around the world. Climb leaderboards and advance to elite competitions. Based on your player's performance on the field, win rewards like game tickets, merch, and much more. Draft your set of free cards now at sorare.com/MLB.
Welcome back in. NBA Rigged in the house. Good day to you as well. NBA draft day. Yeah, exciting times. We're going to recap everything tomorrow. Hopefully our guy Queisenberg DFS can join us and we'll recap how the draft went. Hopefully some craziness in terms of trades. So, and like, I don't understand the NBA. How does Rudy Gobert fetch 5 firsts and other players that are better than Rudy Gobert just, fetch nothing? I guess contracts certainly come into play and things like that. But I tell you what, like GMs in the NBA, they make bad decisions all the time. They're trading picks left, right, and center. How about OKC? I think they've done such a great job over the years of just stockpiling all these picks. And I like it. You can just see sometimes teams just, that's it. We're out. We tried it. We're folding. We're getting all the picks. We're trading everybody. And other times teams that don't think that they think that they have a legitimate shot when they really don't. And they're super aggressive in getting some of these guys. Like the Gobert thing to me was just like, oh my goodness. Is Zach going to have to change his dog's name to Scoot? He may. Could you imagine if Scoot went? I mean, obviously it would never happen. But he may get another dog named Scoot because I know he's in on Scoot Henderson being second overall as well. Yeah, I mean, the NBA. I'm here for the people. So if you guys have questions, I'll certainly address them. Chris, do you think the 76ers could land Dame? You follow the 76ers, right? Are they going to let him just walk? I don't. I mean, I follow the 76ers. I follow every team in the NBA, in the NHL, in the NFL, MLB, like I'm a true psycho. But I don't bleed 76ers like I bleed the Green Bird Gang, if you get me. My old professor told me I wouldn't like teams after being in this business for 10 years, but I'm just such a diehard. I'm never going to get away from the teams. Maybe I won't like the Angels over a couple more years if they continue to break my heart, but I'm a Mavs guy. But I think that Dame is actually going to get traded. I really do feel like, man, there's a lot of rumors about him going to different spots. The 76ers are one of those teams that have been aggressive over the years. I think that they could certainly trade for a guy like Dame. My goodness, like if anybody gets him, they're immediately going to be contenders. I've heard the Heat have been linked to Dame. I heard that the Portland Trailblazers want to package a deal to get Bam. They don't want Bam. My goodness. They don't want Dame. They want Bam. That can't be true. Those rumors can't be true. But again, sometimes we just see craziness in the association. Yeah, there you go. 76ers could trade for him. Definitely possible. If he doesn't go to the Heat. Yes, I've heard the Heat as well. But I'd say Portland, I mean, this is a team that is, I think, going to rebuild. They've moved on from some players like CJ McCollum. I think Dame is probably next. Nobody talks about the Mavs. Everyone talks about the Mavs tanking, like the way that they ended their season. But the Trailblazers tanked for sure. They shut down everybody on the court. And here they are tonight. They're going to get themselves a top pick. Where was I going to go? Let's talk about we don't need any graphics for this. I asked people on Twitter today to name a player you have to have in your fantasy football drafts. Maybe not have to, like I said, that you just want. I want to roll through some of the answers here because I think there's some pretty good ones. Jeff Hazley says Richie James as your last pick. And I actually like that one quite a bit. I've talked about it when doing some best ball drafts. Kadarius is getting reached on. Rashee Rice is a guy that I do like for sure. But this is a pick that's free. You could do it with your very last pick, as Jeff points out. He had a pretty good season with the Giants last year. And you know what? The Chiefs are looking for a number 2 option behind Travis Kelce. I think we're going to see a little bit more from Kadarius Toney this year. I think we're going to see a little bit more from Sky Moore as well. Rice is sprinkled in at MVS. There's a lot of different moving pieces, but I don't think anybody's going to be like a ball hog after Kelce. But he did lead the Giants last year in fantasy points, which, isn't saying a whole lot because the Giants were super thin at the wide receiver position. But he could be a very underrated signing and pickup for Kansas City. Maha says Travis Kelce. Don't tell that to Mike Randall. Dustin's in the house with Cheetah, Tyreek Hill in the news. We got Mark Kiefer says, Broncos country, let's ride. He's going down the Russell Wilson train again. I mean, I don't mind it. It's not like you have to draft this guy as quarterback 10 this year or quarterback 11 this year. It's going to be a little bit different with Sean Payton calling the shots. I can guarantee you that. We could see the change. They played a little bit looser. The offense was flowing when they let go of Nathaniel Hackett. And honestly, they probably should have fired him after week 1 when they settled for that 66-yard field goal from McManus at that point of the season. Like, what? You paid all that capital to get Russell Wilson and paid him handsomely, and they didn't trust him to get 5 yards in a game in Seattle against his former team. I couldn't believe that that's the way that they went in Denver, and everything from that moment on went completely downhill. But I have no problem with Russ. It's a guy that you can get in a single quarterback league with your last pick if you wanted. I don't think there's a lot of people that are in on Russ, but he's not as bad as last season. He just can't be that bad. Sean Payton's going to figure this out offensively. What else do we have here? Deontay Johnson, cheap and should bounce back with a positive touchdown regression. I do agree with that. I think I'd rather Pickett. I think I like his upside a little bit more. Pickett to Pickens, right? Excuse me, I'd rather Pickens. But Deontay Johnson, he should bounce back, right? It's kind of like Miles Sanders, 0 touchdowns 1 year, double digit. I don't think he's going to get double digit touchdowns, but this guy's a really good wide receiver. I know he struggled with drops over the course of his career. He's a good route runner. He's been a ball hog over the past few years. Of course, different distribution this year with Big Ben gone and Kenny under center. But I do like that call, pretty cheap. I said Christian Watson. People are kind of all over me. Christian Watson's best comp is Gabe Davis. That's a big risk by you, and I think I think he's more like a Mike Evans than a Gabe Davis. Gabe Davis is like a 3-catch guy. It's like a 3-4 catch guy. Struggles with drops. Is a big play guy. I think Watson's going to be a ball hog. I could see him getting 70 grabs and 1,000 yards. He does remind me of Mike Evans. I mean, maybe that's fair to say in a future Hall of Famer. I don't think he's going to put up Mike Evans numbers this year, but Mike Evans has been a walking 1,000-yard guy. He's never had 100 catches. He's lived in that 70-catch range. In his 9 seasons, he's averaged 75 grabs. That's kind of what I think we could get from Watson. Yeah, there's questions about Jordan Love. Sure. I mean, there's been questions of a lot of quarterbacks. It doesn't mean I go look at Mike Evans' career. Jameis Winston. This is like multiple mediocre quarterbacks that Mike Evans has played with. He played with the GOAT near the end of his career. Good season 2 years ago. Jordan Love could be okay. He could just feed Watson. If Watson gets 5 catches per game, 5, that's it. Just 5 catches per game. He's going to top 75 grabs. Jordan Allen in the house, Deebo Samuel. Deebo Samuel is an interesting one. For me, I think that 2 years ago will be the outlier season for Deebo Samuel. We've touched on this show, 10 points per game, 11 points per game, 18 points per game. Then last year back to 10 points per game. And I think we saw the drop off probably because, Christian McCaffrey, 2 years ago, Deebo was getting used inside the red zone. He was getting used really as a running back. He had some rushing touchdowns. You're getting used inside the 5, and he's going to be used like that at times. He's very, he's a different wide receiver. And, I would imagine they're going to use him that way in moments, but you got a guy like CMC, you're really going to lean on him inside the red zone. Elijah Mitchell healthy. You're going to lean on those backs inside the red zone. Deebo's a really good player. I think he's going slightly early for me. Mike Omlan says Chris Olave. Derek Carr is looking really good right now. The comment says in practice, he is looking good in practice, but that's important. Again, you take these reports with a grain of salt, but you do want to hear positive reports. You don't want to hear negative reports. You don't want to see reports like, oh, the quarterback and the wide receiver can't get on the same page. Running back struggling with fumbles, wide receivers struggling with drops. You don't want to, you want to hear those things and take in the information, but you don't want to overreact. Do you remember a couple years ago when Jamar Chase couldn't catch a pass in practice? Do you remember that? He couldn't catch a pass. That's it. It's all anybody wanted to talk about. Jamar Chase can't catch a pass. He's struggling with drops. But do you also remember that he wasn't catching passes in practice when he was first drafted from his quarterback at LSU, Joe Burrow? Joe Burrow was coming off that significant injury. He was just getting his timing, his feet wet. I think Brendan Allen was in there under center throwing passes to Jamar Chase. We take these reports with a grain of salt, but it's nice to hear positive reports. And I've heard nothing but positive reports from Derek Carr, from Chris Olave, from Michael Thomas. Carr is an accurate quarterback, and I do believe last year is that outlier campaign. We love Chris Olave on the show. We have him ranked aggressively, wide receiver 14 roughly, and I do like Carr. I probably have to eat the L from last year. Carr was a guy that I was looking to get towards the end of my drafts, and it didn't really work out. But he's going to a team with a top 10 defense, a good offensive line. Can't say the same thing about the Raiders over the past couple of years. Our guy, John Legeza, MLB, NFL moving averages now of The Athletic. Jordan Addison, can't avoid it. Like Jordan Addison too. The Jordan Addison continues to rise up draft boards where the value seems to be gone, and that's what's going to happen. We're into June. Best ball drafts, we were taking him. You could really take him in the 60s before he was on a team, but then we went to Minnesota and potentially be the number 2 there behind Justin Jefferson. I think probably the number 3 behind TJ Hawkinson, but a really good wide receiver. And I'm in on him too, but he is moving up draft boards. Now you got to take him as roughly wide receiver 35, 36. Santa Yana? I may have butchered that. Says Michael Thomas. Travis H says Garrett Wilson. Love Garrett Wilson. I don't mind taking a shot at Michael Thomas either, because it's not a steep price to pay like in years past. Like, of course, there's uncertainty, and that's why it's, his ADP, all of that is baked into the ADP. But Michael Thomas, roughly wide receiver 40, you take a shot on that in the middle rounds. If it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. But we know that he does have the ceiling and the upside. Carr says he's a violent runner. Commissioner Bree says Pat Freiermuth. That's an interesting one. I think I'll probably pass on that range of tight ends. I just don't like that range. Do we have my tight end rankings handy, Quan? I'll probably just throw things at you like that. Pickens better route runner than Deontay? No, I don't think so. But I think Pickens has a higher ceiling. I think he already has multiple highlight reel catches on his resume. I think he's got great hands, nice catch radius in there. I think Deontay's a better route runner, but I think the ceiling is with Pickens. I don't think there's any doubt about that in my mind. But for Pat Freiermuth, good tight end, but I don't know. I'd probably pass in that range with him and Evan Ingram. I want to live in the range of, I like Kelsey, of course. Would I spend a first round pick on him in the end of the first? Probably not. I don't think there's anything wrong with it. I know Randall's not all about it, but I don't think there's really anything wrong with it to do at the end of the first. Kind of treat him as a wide receiver 1. He doesn't have a true wide receiver 1 on his team. 1,000 yards, touchdown machine. You can just really bank on either a touchdown or 70 yards from Travis Kelce. And you do have a slight edge on your other opponents, but I also like Mark Andrews. I like Hawkinson. I'll probably avoid that Kelce's on his own tier. And then for me, it would be Andrews and Hawkinson. And I think that's a tier in its own as well. I would go Kittle and Goddard, Pitts and Waller in a tier, but my goodness, Pitts, he may not even really belong in that tier. Kittle was great down the stretch of the season with Brock Purdy. He wasn't blocking as much. Goddard is just the 3 on a really good team, but he is the 3. Pitts behind London, disappointing last year, but a great rookie campaign. Let's not forget about that rookie campaign. And I think the offense will flow better now that you got a true bell cow back, a good offensive line, an underrated O-line, and Desmond Ridder, who I have some questions about, but the offense did flow a little bit. I think there's a higher ceiling for guys like Pitts and Drake London with Ridder under center as opposed to Marcus Mariota. Darren Waller, now 30 years old. I do trust, when Dayball brings in somebody, I'm intrigued. I think they'll run some 2 tight end sets, but he's been He's been hurt over the past couple of seasons. I think he'll have some moments. Be a nice little safety valve there for Daniel Jones, a good target for him, with questions around other wide receivers on that team. But for Darren Waller, good red zone target there. I'll probably just avoid that tier though, right? Like Waller, Freiermuth, Ingram. You got Ridley now, who's a couple years removed from a 1,300-yard season. You still have Chark on that, or not Chark, Kirk on the squad, Zay Jones on the squad, a lot of different moving pieces there. Dalton Schultz, this is the range I want to live in. Dalton Schultz, David Njoku, Greg Dulcich, worst case scenario, Tyler Higbee, 70 plus grabs last season. I know most of that with the Cooper Cup gone. Yeah, thank you. Cole Kmet and Konku. That's the range I want to live in. I really do want to live in that range when it comes to those tight ends. Last picks, Juwan Johnson. Kincaid, I think, is going to be a heck of a player. I just think he's going slightly early. These rookies, at the tight end position don't always, return a profit. But, man, he's a hell of a player, and he could really be the number 2 in Buffalo over time. But he's still got Dawson Knox in the squad, Sam Laporta in there. I probably have Jelani Woods ranked higher than most, but, I mean, that guy is just a freak of nature. I think he's just a mismatch across the field. Who knows? Maybe Anthony Richardson locks into him. We'll see what happens. Let's go back to some of these questions. We got a couple more minutes and we'll break here. Future Professional says Rashad Penny, GOAT. Yeah, there's going to be a committee there in Philadelphia. DeAndre Swift going a little early, in my opinion. I think he probably has the highest ceiling out of all the backs there, including Gainwell and Boston Scott. Penny should be the first down back there. He should get some first and second down opportunities. I would expect him to be the goal line back there in Philadelphia when Jalen Hurts isn't calling his own number. But I think in order to keep all these guys fresh, you want to have a little bit of a rotation. But Rashad Penny's is pretty easy on the wallet when it comes to his draft day price. Peter says, nice try, Meaney. My league mates follow, so I won't. So he's going to say Matt Ryan. Don't draft Matt Ryan. He doesn't even have a team. My league mates follow too. Maybe I'm just fooling everybody with Christian Watson. Matthew says he hears his Christian Watson ceiling's higher than Jefferson. Okay. The Hall of Fame Nate says Trevor Lawrence, especially his value in QB1. I love Trevor Lawrence. I have a lot of this is the most exposure I have out of quarterbacks over at Underdog Fantasy. Love it. I really am a big fan of Trevor Lawrence. Big leap forward last year, which we all saw. We all thought that was coming, didn't we? Move on from Urban Meyer. He had a capable head coach in Doug Peterson, who has been around really good coaches. I mean, he backed up Brett Favre. He started Favre. He came in and he backed him up. And then he's been with Andy Reid. He's done some great things, in Philadelphia with Wentz and Nick Foles en route to a Super Bowl. So I really like Trevor Lawrence. And for me personally, I want to leave my draft with like a top 8 quarterback. I got to get one of those guys. And Trevor Lawrence is like that cutoff. I think after him, I would be okay with a Geno Smith or potentially a Russ in a deeper format. Rip says he can't shake Chase Claypool's 11th round or 11 TD rookie season. I believe that's an outlier. No shots here. If you like Chase Claypool, you like Chase Claypool. He says Watson going 4th round on Underdog is an easy pass for him, but in his home leagues, he would consider it 6th or 7th round. You're just not going to get him in the 6th or 7th round. I'd like to go wide receiver heavy. And I have done some drafts where Christian Watson's my 3rd wide receiver, and I also have a running back on that squad, whether it's Nick Chubb, Ramondre Stevenson. I'm not going to sit here and hammer home Christian Watson too much more. I like him. Chase Claypool, I mean, that season was end arounds. He was getting touchdowns. I think he had 4 touchdowns and 4 touches in one game. He's just not going to get the volume in Chicago. He's just not going to do it. Like, you got DJ Moore there, you got Meaney, you got Kmet. I think Chase Claypool is an easy fade, and I think he's going to be on waiver wires this season. Justin Fields in there, not in on Watson, but I do like Calvin Ridley, Garrett Wilson, Olave, JSN, just need one. We got DeAndre Swift here with Love. Interesting. Yeah, Love's going to be fine, guys. Like, he's going to have his moments. We did piss poor. Blake Bortles was a top 12 quarterback, and he made Allen Robinson a top 5 wide receiver. Blake Bortles stinks. Allen Robinson had like a 1,600-yard season with double-digit touchdowns with Blake Bortles. This is fantasy we're talking about here. Love could be just fine, and he could pepper Christian Watson. Cam Akers, love it. Quentin Johnson, like that as well. Lamar Jackson, I'm in. Nkonkwo, I'm in. Treylon Burks, baby. I love that one as well. A lot of J.K. Dobbins here. I do like the J.K. Dobbins. Bijan Robinson, it's a price to pay. Breece Hall in the 3rd, like it. Frank Gore to respect. Dare I say Antonio Gibson. I think Antonio Gibson was one of the winners in fantasy football because they didn't really do a whole lot to bring in competition, and they let go of J.D. McKissick. So he can get back to, being a pass-catching player, which he was in college. He was a wide receiver, which he tried to convert as a running back. He's not built like a running back. Brian Robinson Jr. is built like a running back. And I think that I think they might bring in a veteran back because I don't believe that Ron Rivera likes Antonio Gibson. I could see Washington signing Kareem Hunt, and that would ruin everything that Antonio Gibson would bring to the table at this point. DK Metcalf in there as well, Cam Akers and Jerry Jeudy. I don't know. I think that was a pretty fun assignment. Maybe you didn't get anything out of it. Kind of touched on a few players. I see a lot of comments. I think there's a trade in the association. We'll touch on all that in a little bit. We are going to break. That was a long one. A little bit more football talk. We still got an MLB pick. We still have some hockey talk as well. So keep your lock. We'll be back here in a couple. Hang tight.
The future of fantasy sports is here with So Rare. Build your teams just like an owner. Buy, sell, or trade officially licensed digital player cards. Build your 5-player weekly lineup, and you could win rewards like tickets, autographed jerseys, and more. The future of fantasy sports is here with So Rare, taking Dynasty to the next level. The future of fantasy sports is here with So Rare. Build your teams just like an owner. Buy, sell, or trade officially licensed digital player cards. Build your 5-player weekly lineup, and you could win rewards like tickets, autographed jerseys, and more. The future of fantasy sports is here with So Rare, taking Dynasty to the next level.
Just want to address a couple things. Some people that are hanging out with us always like to do this. This show is for you guys. It really is. So I always appreciate the comments here. NBA Rick, how is Richie better than MVS and Sky? I don't think he's better. I think maybe he's better than MVS. What's MVS is like a one-trick pony. He's a deep threat guy. He runs like 2 routes. Very inconsistent as a player. I like Sky. I think Sky Moore is a really good buy low candidate in dynasty leagues. Nobody's talking about him. They're talking about everybody else in Kansas City, but not Sky. Sky's a good player. He really is. He didn't get a lot of run last year in Kansas City. He struggled, returning punts. He muffed a couple of them. He did catch a touchdown in the Super Bowl, which still breaks my heart, but he's a good player. And I think we're going to see an uptick for him. And he's fairly cheap. Hurts, yes. Goddard, no. And I love Goddard. I think he's great. I just don't want the number 3 in Philadelphia, which is a run first team. And it's a steep price to pay. I don't want to be, it's just top 5. It's at tight end. It's not for me. OBJ is your must draft. 50 million, not going to go to waste. I love it. And I'm really excited about Baltimore. I've said it a couple times in this show. They ran 11 personnel fewer than anybody in the NFL last year. Monk now, offensive coordinator there. And, you bring in OBJ. Hopefully, Mark Andrews can stay healthy. You got Bateman and Zay Flowers there. You're going to see a lot of soft boxes for J.K. Dobbins, who's high on my list. I almost went Dobbins over Watson. But I really think that it's going to be really tough to defend the Ravens. It's going to be tough for defenders to help other defenders to cover the Ravens. What are you going to do? You're going to double OBJ. You're going to double Mark Andrews. You got to worry about the dual threat ability of Lamar Jackson. Soft boxes for J.K. Dobbins, who's done nothing but, churn out yards per carry. I mean, he's not a large sample size, but this is a guy who's been like 10, 12 touches, around 5 yards per carry. And also, you're going to see some one-on-one from like Bateman stretching the field, Zay Flowers, maybe some rotations in there. The Lakers are acquiring the 40th pick from the Pacers for 47th pick and cash. Interesting. What do they want that pick for? And that's what NBA rate. What do they want that pick for? They're just going to flip it. They're going to make some trades here. This question here. Would you draft Miles Sanders or Swift? I would take Miles Sanders. I would take Miles Sanders, former Bird. I like Miles Sanders. I've always been a fan of Miles Sanders. Miles Sanders, one of my favorite targets last year. Trust me, had some success drafting Miles Sanders in the 8th round. And then when he took to social media and said, don't draft me, I was taking him in the 10th round. There were people that were taking Kenneth Gainwell over Miles Sanders last year. People don't like Miles Sanders. I don't know why. I know that maybe there's a history in Philadelphia with Doug Peterson rotating backs, and he never really was treated as a bell cow back, but he's a good running back. When he broke into the league, he was one of 4 backs to have 4.6 yards per carry, 50 grabs, 500 receiving yards, 800 rushing yards with Dalvin Cook, Christian McCaffrey, and Alvin Kamara. Like that role, pass catching role went away from him, but I think there's a possibility he can get that back in Carolina. I think he could be a bell cow back. Swift has never had a full season in the NFL. He's never shown us that he can handle 10 to 12 carries between the tackles. He's going to a situation where there's a better offensive line. It's a better team offensively. Philly boy, you can buy into all those narratives, but the Eagles are going to rotate through these backs. Miles Sanders is going to be the lead in Carolina. I don't think Chuba Hubbard is going to threaten anything that Sanders, can do in terms of touches and goal line opportunities and things like that. So I think they're really going to lean on him. It's a new regime there with Frank Reich and young pieces, rookie quarterback, Miles Sanders for sure. For me, I have him roughly running back 15, and I got Swift about 10 spots after that. So I think Swift's got a pretty high ceiling, but I'm definitely team Sanders here. I do have some other things planned. Did we do round 2, Quan? We already did round 2 of NFFC high stakes leagues. Do you have it there? We can roll through it quickly and then get into round 3. So this was round 2, in case you missed it. Jonathan Taylor, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Saquon Barkley, Devontae Adams, Garrett Wilson, Josh Allen, Jalen Hurts. Again, this is a 6-point passing touchdown league. We saw, on average, when we showed round 1, it was Patrick Mahomes at pick 10, fairly early, even in the 6-point passing league for me. Jalen Waddle, Nick Chubb, Devontae Smith, Tony Pollard, Chris Olave there, rounding out round 2 on average. High stakes leagues here and drafts taking place over the last 2 weeks. Here is round 3. Round 3, we get into Josh Jacobs, Derrick Henry. Josh Jacobs led the NFL in rushing last year. Derrick Henry's been a beast over the past couple of years. Everybody waiting for him to fall off, but getting him in the 3rd round, it's not too bad. T. Higgins, Joe Burrow, DK Metcalf, Ramondre Stevenson, I absolutely love. 60 some odd grabs last year. They brought in James Robinson. They let go of James Robinson. This should be his backfield. Najee Harris, I actually love him as well. Jaylen Warren getting some steam, but I do like Harris. And last year to start the season, not healthy, dealing with the Liz Frank injury. Last year, towards the end of the season, looked healthy and looked like the Harris of the rookie campaign, 1,000 yards. He's never going to catch like 70-plus balls. That was Big Ben, just couldn't throw the ball 5 yards. That's all he could throw the ball. It's just like check down city. Mark Andrews, Breece Hall. Love Breece Hall. Really do. And I like the value there in the 3rd round. I'm willing to take some shots on Breece. You may not get full Breece until October, but I do like Breece Hall as a running back. We were in on him last year on this show too. Unfortunately, he suffered the seasoning and injury. I saw him live in New York in a game against the Bengals. Watch him take one to the house, man. Really, really explosive running back. Deebo Samuel in there, Keenan Allen, and DeAndre Hopkins. Again, I touched on Deebo. I don't think there's too many bad picks here. DK might be going slightly early. You have Jackson Smith-Njigba there now. I do love Geno, led the NFL in completion percentage, top 10 quarterback last year in fantasy. I think he's a really good target, probably the best quarterback going outside the top 10 and 15 on average. But, DK always goes early, but Tyler Lockett always finishes right there with DK. It's usually the same amount of fantasy points. Everyone sleeps on Lockett, but Lockett last year showed us that, hey, I can still be good without Russell Wilson. Just let me look quickly here. I got a second. Bear with me. This is where these guys finish in fantasy in a half-point setting. DK Metcalf was wide receiver 18, and Tyler Lockett was wide receiver 13. That's where those guys finished in fantasy last season. Want to do fantasy points per game? Let's do them. Tyler Lockett, wide receiver 15. DK Metcalf, wide receiver 27. Why? Like, DK just gets the benefit of the doubt. I get it. I like DK. He's a freak of nature. But Tyler Lockett, not going anywhere. 1,000 yards, 9 touchdowns. DK Metcalf, 1,000 yards, 6 touchdowns. Lockett, 117 targets, 84 grabs. DK, 141 targets, 90 grabs. Lockett's the value. DK's not the value. Lockett is the value, and he's going like round 6, sometimes 7. And you just saw there DK in the 3rd. All right, we got another quick break. MLB picks. We'll say goodbye to the NFL talk for now. We'll get back into it. We got Mr. Moody of ESPN joining us tomorrow, so it'll be a heavy NFL show. Let's do Hockey Hall of Fame. We also have an MLB pick to round out the show as well. We'll be back in a couple. Welcome back in case you missed it last night. The Hall of Fame class of 2023 was announced. Of course, these guys will get inducted into the Hockey Hall of Fame in Toronto, November 13th. It's the goalies, the year of the goalies. Henrik Lundqvist, his first year eligibility. This guy was a 7th round pick in 2000, a steal from the Rangers. 2012 Vezina winner, 5-time finalist. He won 459 games, the 6th most, the most among goalies born in Europe. Of course, he won the gold medal with Sweden in 2006 and the silver in 2014, a .918 save percentage for his career. That's 8th among goalies with at least 300 games played. Tom Barrasso went from high school to the NHL, a 2-time Cup winner, 91 and 92 with the Pens. He was selected 5th overall in 1983 from the Sabres, won the Calder and the Vezina in his rookie season as an 18-year-old, 5-time Vezina finalist, 369 wins. How about Tom Barrasso and Mike Vernon? Just 2 old school goalies. Like Barrasso's with that stand-up goalie, sometimes stack the pads. Vernon was a little guy who had a great career with Calgary, Detroit, San Jose, and Florida from 82 to 2002. 3rd round pick in 1981. Vezina runner-up to Patrick Waugh in 89, but he did get the best of him in 1989 when his Flames beat the Habs in 89 in the Stanley Cup Finals. He also won a cup in 97, and he also won the Conn Smythe as the MVP of the playoffs in 1987, 386 wins. I do remember Pierre Turgeon I remember all these guys, of course, I'm a psycho, but I remember Pierre Turgeon as a kid, when he was a Canadian in 96, 97, 98. The Habs were atrocious over those years. It's just after they won the cup, and then it was just all downhill from then. But he had a great career, 1,300 points, 500 goals in just under 1,300 games, 97 points in just over 100 playoff games, most points of any eligible player not in the Hall, so deserving for sure. Stops in Buffalo, Montreal, St. Louis, Dallas, Colorado, and the Islanders. Hitchcock and Lacroix in as builders. Lacroix GM for Quebec and Colorado, 2 cups there, 94 and 96, and then 2001. And then Hitchcock, head coach in Dallas, Philadelphia, St. Louis, Columbus, Edmonton, 4th winning coach of all time, won a cup in 89 with the Dallas Stars. And he had 849 wins, 534 losses, 127 overtime shootout losses, also had 88 ties. He was around for quite some time. Also, Olette on that list as well. We show that again one more time, right? Fantastic career for her. 4-time gold medalist, one of 3 to win. Haley Wickenheiser, Jana Hedford as well. 12-time international world championship medalist, 6 gold, 6 silver. Clarkson Cup 4 times, NCAA division title once, 2-time CWHL MVP as well. So really deserving. What I want to say is, where's Alexander Mogilny? Another year? We're going to do this another year with Mogilny. I got to ask, is it because he's Russian? What's the deal at this point? Why isn't this guy in the Hockey Hall of Fame? One season with 76 goals and 127 points. One season with 55 goals and 107 points. Another season with 43 goals. He played 990 games. He scored 473 times. He had over 1,000 points. What is going on? Alexander Mogilny should 100% be in the Hall. It bothers me. We're going to MLB prop here next. Keep her locked.
Play So Rare MLB, a free revolutionary fantasy game and marketplace that transforms fans into general managers. Build your team with ownable digital player cards. Collect, buy, sell, and trade to optimize your lineup. Compete against So Rare managers from around the world. Climb leaderboards and advance to elite competitions. Based on your player's performance on the field, win rewards like game tickets, merch, and much more. Draft your set of free cards now at sorare.com/MLB. Play So Rare MLB, a free revolutionary fantasy game and marketplace that transforms fans into general managers. Build your team with ownable digital player cards. Collect, buy, sell, and trade to optimize your lineup. Compete against So Rare managers from around the world. Climb leaderboards and advance to elite competitions. Based on your player's performance on the field, win rewards like game tickets, merch, and much more. Draft your set of free cards now at sorare.com/MLB.
Welcome in. The MLB bet of the day is Shane McClanahan of the Tampa Bay Rays, our guy here on the show. Over 7.5 Ks at plus 116. A matchup against the worst team in baseball in the Kansas City Royals. These guys are like bottom 5 in every single offensive category. They strike out the 6th most in baseball at 24.2%, slightly more over the last 30 days and slightly more against right-handed pitching. McClanahan has a sub-3 ERA. He's got a 1.64 ERA in 44 innings at home. So I know it's a high number, but I'm in. Shane McClanahan over 7.5 strikeouts. I'd give you more, but there's only a couple more games. Want to take care of the Game Plus Network crew. That game's a little bit later on this evening. Check out ftnbets.com/free for more. Have a fantastic Thursday. Enjoy the draft. We'll break it all down tomorrow. Scoot Henderson, second overall. Cheers.